Krishna महाराज प्रभु पाद की विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रवेजिकाचार्य श्रोतम शिष्य सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की माता कुछ वैष्णव वृंद की आचार्य शिव हरदास ठाकुर की इस्कॉन फाउंडर श्री प्रभुपाद की फ्रेंड्स श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरी गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की शरणपुर धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा माई की यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की मृदांग की समवेत भक्तवृंद की ओम गुरु सोजो संजोत ओम गुरु सोजो संजोत ओम गुरु सोजो संजोत ओम गुरु शिष्य गुरु शिवानंद ओम गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद।
भगवान श्री नृसिंहदेव की, भक्त श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की, जगत गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपाद की, बोल प्रेमानंदे।
Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to our Open Doors Sunday Feast program at Iskonotowa, the home of our beloved deities, Shishigaurintai Ki Jai. My name is Krishna Sevadas, and so we just had Guru Arati ceremony. After that we will have a talk, a lecture based on the scriptures, on Bhagavad Gita, on Bhagavatam, and then since it's one of the last days of Kartik months, the special months, we will still be offering ghee lamps to the Lord Damodar. And after that will be kirtan, and of course dinner, prasadam, cooked with love and offered to the Lord. So please stay with us. And oh yes, by the tradition, we're asking if there are any new people coming for the first time. If you could raise your hands. Oh, nice. Thanks for coming. So nice to have new people every time. Do you mind me asking how did you find out about the programs, about the temple? Internet, friends?
I just live nearby.
Oh,
And I figured out. Talk to
nice. Welcome. So it's not only one day on Sunday, it's every day the temple is open. We have vegetarian restaurant here, Govinda's running from 12 to 7. You can come for darshan, Friday kirtans. In the evening, 6:30, we're just chanting, and lots of other programs, morning programs, so you can join to our WhatsApp group and be up to date about all the festivals, events. So please come and join. Thank you for coming. So next in our program is class, and today's speaker is Great Sharat Prabhu, and I have not a very short introduction, but I will try to make it shorter. So just to get familiar with Prabhu. So Sharat Prabhu was born in Kenya. He lived some time in Botswana, but most of his life was in South Africa. His parents are devotees, and they introduced him to Krishna consciousness. And he started attending temple programs around 2001. At that point, the most attractive part of the temple or home programs for him was the prasadam. but at one home program that he attended around 2007, he was really able to relate with what was being said during the class by one of the swamis, and that was the turning point for him. And then Sharat Prabhu started to take his devotional practice more seriously. He was attending ISKCON Pretoria regularly and participating in different kind of services, including play and dramas during the festivals. And after moving to Canada, Sharat Prabhu started attending our temple regularly, participating in Bhakti club gatherings at Ottawa. And then the local devotees acknowledged his and his wife Mataji Sonia's talents, and they started engaging them in festivals, planning and conducting temple fundraising events. You can see him doing MCing service during Rath Yatra, Vaishnava Sangha festivals. They sometimes help cooking, Sunday feast, they help cleaning the temple and many other services. I will stop here, and please welcome Sharat.
Can we get a Haribo?
Well, good afternoon, dear devotees. Today is a very auspicious occasion It is also the last day of a very auspicious month, known as Kartik Mass. This month is known as one of the most pious months in the whole calendar year, the Vedic calendar year. Little bit amount of service that you do, coming to the temple, chanting the holy names of the Lord, offering ghee lamp to the Lordships, to Shishi, Yashoda Damodar. A lot of benefit is obtained. So, I would really like to encourage you to open your hearts, open your minds, and just give in on this last auspicious day, and just surrender your heart, your mind, your soul, and just let Krishna flow into your life. The first thing is, let's sing some Jai Radha Madhava, and we'll continue, okay? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Gaur Nitai ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Thank you all very much for coming today. As I mentioned, it's a very auspicious day. I may not be qualified to speak, and quite honestly, I really am not. But the message that I'm speaking about, that message is qualified. It comes from Krishna, original personality of Godhead, passed on from the Acharyas in Guru Parampara. So I may not be perfect, but the message I speak to you today is perfect. And I'm just asking for your blessings, that I may speak some words that may inspire you, that may bring about some change in your daily practices of bhakti, and that you may find answers to the reason you came to the temple today. I pray that Shri Gaur Nitai and Srila Prabhupada bestow me with some intellect to sit on this very glorified position and speak a few words with you. So with that, I will start. Hare Krishna, everybody. So, as I mentioned, today is a very auspicious day, actually month. But we also have a few things going on. Not only is it the last day of the Kartik month, those of you may know it is also the last this is also Bhishma Panchaka. Right? 5 days, very, very special, the last 5 days of the Kartik month. As per our calendar in North America, it's actually 4 days because of some weird astrological calculations. But today is the final day of this Bhishma Panchak in Canada, and it's a very auspicious day also because Bhishma Dev, those of you who may know in the Mahabharata, is one of the great Mahajans. He's one of the great personalities who had taken upon himself a very austere service in serving the Supreme Lord. So this is the final days before he departs. In fact, today is the day he departs from this world. Today also is a very auspicious day because it is Tulsi Vivah. So we have a very special personality, so beautifully decorated in front of us. Shri Tulsi Maharani. She is the embodiment, the personification of devotion. And today we honor her as she being one of the topmost devotees of the Lord. Today is her special day where she gets to marry the Lordship. So, first of all, I'd like to offer obeisances and say thank you to the wonderful devotees that have put on a beautiful, beautiful arrangement for us here to see Tulsi Maharani. So let's give a big Haribol to the devotees. So we have Tulsi Maharani and also Shri Gaur Nitai looking so beautiful today, right? You know, when we come to the temple, it's so important. We're not just looking at the deities, but we're actually relishing with our eyes the forms, because it is by their kindness, their mercy, that we are here and we get to see them in this form. So appreciate their beautiful form, beautiful garlands, every single paraphernalia about them. So I want to take you on a journey today, right? A journey to perhaps one of the innermost destinations that many have failed to go. What am I talking about? Does anyone know? Huh? Bro?
Oh, I saw your PowerPoints.
Okay, he's not allowed to speak. Who knows, huh? The journey, a destination that many people actually know of, many have heard of, but few have actually considered going. Am I talking about space? Huh? Space? No.
Are you talking about Vaikuntha?
Vaikuntha Dham. Oh, that's somewhere we definitely want to go for sure. It's a very excellent answer, right? Vaikuntha Dham. But it's somewhere even more intrinsic, right? I want to take you all in the journey to the mind. The mind. What is the mind? And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to honor Bhishma Dev. So I'll speak a bit about that later. But today I want to take you on a journey, if you'd like to come along with me, into understanding the mind. Are you interested in coming with me? Yeah? All right, so just a quick thing. I'm going to do a quick word association game just to get our minds going. Since this is a journey about the mind, let's do this. So I'm going to say a few words. You don't have to shout it out. Just think out and make a mental note of the first thing, no cheating, the first thing that comes to the mind. All right? So if I, for example, say flowers, for me, scent comes to mind. Okay? For somebody else, some other thing might come to mind. So whatever comes to mind first, don't have to say it out, just think it and capture it in your mind. And the idea is to journey through the mind and understand what it is that it's functioning, how is it functioning, and how can we take this mind, purify it, and apply it to the service of the Supreme. Okay, so let's start. Favorite food? All right. Everyone has a favorite food? Okay, let's start easy. All right. It's here. Yes. Topmost answer. Okay. The color red. Right. Everyone has something in mind? Red? Roy Prabhu, what are you thinking about?
Blood.
Blood. Mataji, what are you thinking about?
Married woman.
Married woman. You see how everyone's answers. Marutha Prabhu, what are you thinking of?
Flowers on your...
You see? Wow. Someone from the back, Prabhuji, you're on the chair. What are you thinking about?
T-shirt.
The t-shirt. There you go. It's interesting. Now I want you to just start thinking how everybody perceives the same thing differently. And interestingly, the senses have helped. For example, wearing red immediately draws the attention to something. So you see how the mind starts functioning, right? Why we chose married woman or why we chose a certain aspect says a little bit about our mind. And I'll speak to you a bit more about that. Kirtan, right? Who wants to share? Kirtan. What comes to mind?
Mridanga.
Mridanga. Yes, Prabhu.
Dancing.
Dancing. Right.
Vibration.
Vibration.
Ecstatic.
Ecstatic. There you go. Yeah. What about a pillow?
Sleep.
Right, now I'm not trying to put you to sleep. But a pillow, sleep, huh? I think everybody's going to agree to that, huh? Let's take it to a different tone. What about a knife? Who wants to share?
Vegetables.
What? Vegetables. Okay. Who else wants to share? Knife. Surendra Prabhu Gopal. Surendra Gopal Prabhu, what are you thinking about?
Fruit and vegetable chopping.
Chopping. Somebody else wants to share? What comes to the first thing that came to mind? There's no right or wrong answer. What? Huh? Cake cutting. Very well.
For me, it was survival.
Survival.
One of the more important things.
Right. Survival. It's a very good answer.
I thought kill.
Kill? Honest. I appreciate that. You see?
I'm not the only one.
Cutting bad karma.
Huh?
Cutting bad karma.
Cutting bad karma. We can see how elevated devotees are. We should take their association. Cutting bad karma. But a knife in the wrong hand can be very destructive, right? A knife in the wrong hands can kill. It can take lives. The same instrument can do very destructive actions. But a knife in the right hands can do very glorious and wondrous things, right? It can save lives. A doctor doing operations with a blade, it's a knife. So the same instrument, depending on how we apply it, can render either destruction or it can do really good things. So now what does a knife have to do with us in today's topic? Well, the same way that all these different things were instruments, our mind is an instrument. And my Krishna says to Arjuna that your mind can be your best friend, but it can also be your worst enemy. Really meditate on that. Your mind can be your best friend and it can also be your worst enemy. It depends how you apply this instrument. And note that I say instrument. Right. So, moving on a bit further, how many of us struggle? So I'm sort of setting the context to the verse in the Bhagavad Gita that I'm going to read. So I'm just building up to the climax, and then I have something small prepared. It's not up there. Good. It's a bit of a surprise. Small little presentation. How many of us struggle to wake up when the alarm clock goes off in the morning? For Mangal Arati, going to school, going to class, going to work, right? How many of us actually hit that snooze? Like, it's, you got to keep hitting that snooze until you know it's the absolute last moment before you're going to miss the bus or you're going to get to work or your class is going to start, right? Guilty. Doesn't help when you work from home because your office is your home. Right? How many of us have the urge when we know we have something important to do to surf social media? Whether it's Instagram, YouTube. I don't think Facebook is as popular as it used to be, but whatever it is. How many of us can actually, when you know you should be studying, when you know you should be chanting, when you know you should be doing work for your office purposes, how many of us actually, our minds just drift off and, social media, I just got I got a notification. And the mind automatically says, let's go read this message because you never know. The world could be ending. Yeah, right. It's interesting, isn't it? How the mind functions. Now, how many of us struggle to do our job, to chant? And not only chant, but chant attentively. How many of us? I'll put my hand right up there. Right? Forget even 16 rounds. How many of us can chant one round with full attention? What does it mean to chant with full attention? It means the mind does not waver. The mind does not flicker. The mind is completely fixed on listening to the words, the syllables that you're chanting. The mind is fixed on remembering the beautiful form of the Lord. Even one round. Every time I start drifting off, I have to say, hey, Sharat, come back. We have to remember what we're doing, but it's very difficult, right? Why does the mind do this? Why does it do this? A lot of us actually live our lives not realizing that our minds are not helping us. It's actually pushing us back. But we tend to blame circumstances, people, situations for why we are failing to do whatever it is. We want to be a good singer, a good kirtanier. Prabhuji did this and that to me. Mataji didn't let me do this. You didn't become good at studying because my teacher wasn't good. Or we did too many homework, I didn't get time to study. We'll always find excuses. Be into this inner space and try to understand the mind. Are you all interested in this topic today?
Yeah.
Yeah? Is it interesting? Okay. So, I think we can now read a verse. Does anybody know the verse I'm going to speak about? Take a guess. Anyone know?
I would say the mind is more difficult to control than the wind. Is that?
All right, well, that's the verse. All right. Very nice. There's so many nice verses in the Bhagavad Gita explaining and speaking about the mind, but I found this verse particularly very inspiring to me individually, so I hope I can share a few words about that. But before we read from this beautiful book, we'll just chant a few prayers, if you can repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 We have a special request. Devotees are too far away. Can you please come closer to me? I struggle to see far, so come closer. Please come closer. Yeah? Okay, I don't bite, I promise. I'm vegetarian. Okay, so let's chant the Mangalacharan prayers and just invoke auspiciousness before we read. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnanantana Shalakaya Chakshururun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijam Jana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priya Nama Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So those of you who want to follow, reading from chapter 6, text 34. Okay, so the chapter is entitled Dhyan Yoga. So for the interest of time, I'll just read it because I have a little bit things to get through and we still have quite a lot on the program. So, Chanchala Himana Krishna Pramati Balavadridam Tasyaham Nigraham Manye Vayuriva Suduskaram. So this is Krishna speaking to Arjuna. The context of this verse, before I go into the translation, I'm sure all of you understand Sanskrit, I don't. So I will give you the translation just now. But the context of this verse is Krishna is speaking to Arjuna the importance of fixing the mind in devotional service. Specifically, actually, before he even gets to devotional service, it's about fixing the mind. And he's described how important it is to have a single-pointed, fixed concentration. He speaks about Astanga Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga. And so just up until the build-up of this, Arjuna has now heard all of this, and he's now telling Krishna this particular verse. So Krishna has instructed Arjuna about how to control the mind. And now this is the context of the verse. So in English, the translation that we just heard in Sanskrit, the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. How beautiful is that verse? Why is it beautiful?
I'm trying to put it up here.
Oh, okay. I haven't started yet, so it's okay. You can put it up. You can ignore the screen for now. But why is this verse beautiful, right? I want to repeat this again. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. Arjuna is speaking these words to Krishna. Who is Arjuna? When the Lord appears on this world, he never comes alone. He comes with his complete entourage. He's never alone, you know. All his very intimate associates come with him. So he relishes the pastimes with these devotees, with these associates. So Arjuna, not only is he a family relationship to Krishna in this Dwapar Yuga, but we should understand that his position is very elevated. So when we understand the position of Arjuna, I've even spoken about his qualification. He's a Kshatriya, right? He's this great warrior. And for a person in those ages to perfect the science of military art, they had to actually undergo a lot of training, not like it is nowadays. So he was very fixed in his ability to be disciplined and to actually achieve very difficult feats. You know, he was able to pull his arrow, shoot obstacles, which I can guarantee almost no one can do, and that too blindfolded. How many of us can throw a ball of paper a few meters away and actually hit the target? Arjuna could shoot an arrow far away with his eyes closed. This is the perfection he had acquired. So a person with such discipline a person with such, a credibility that he's already, remember, one of the associates of Krishna. It is not by chance you get to be a close associate of the Lord, right? There's obviously some inner workings. So Arjuna, not only was he friend, but remember the great Mahabharata battle, Krishna was serving Arjuna how? Krishna was his charioteer, pulling his chariot, right? So look at this. Also in the same battle, Krishna is now becoming Arjuna's guru. We understand that a guru, a spiritual master, does not accept any candidate to be his disciple. The disciple should be qualified. So this is the qualification that we're reading from Arjuna. So Krishna accepted Arjuna to be his disciple. We should understand that this personality who poses these questions in the Bhagavad Gita are not ordinary questions. They're posing these questions to also benefit us. But the positions that are asked from these questions are very, very important. We should not read these texts blindly. We should understand the context in which it is said. So Arjuna is now saying to Krishna, the mind is restless. 5,000 years ago, the mind is restless. Dwapara Yuga. There's no social media, there's no Facebook, no internet, no cell phones. Arjuna is saying the mind is restless. Can you imagine in Dwapara Yuga when there's more goodness, for him to say the mind is restless? What to speak of us in this day and age in Kali Yuga? In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, where there is so much distractions and so much vice going around, open the TV, immediately you'll be drawn to so much of negativity. The mind automatically becomes perturbed. It automatically becomes restless. Arjuna was saying 5,000 years ago, the mind is restless. It is turbulent, obstinate. It is stubborn. The mind is stubborn. This personality who is so perfected is saying, the mind is stubborn, Krishna. I wonder how many of us have actually got that realization that our minds are like this, restless, turbulent, obstinate. How many of us have this realization? You do? Great, right? We should meditate on these words because there's a reflection that we can absorb and apply in ourselves. He says one more thing, the mind is very strong. When we're hitting that snooze button on the alarm clock, you know you should get up. But the mind's like, just sleep another 5 minutes, it's okay. There's another bus, or it's okay. We'll just get 1 minute before time. The mind is very strong, right? It is very strong, and that's why it's important to understand it. And he's telling Arjuna, saying to Krishna, oh Krishna, and to subdue it, to control it. I think it is more difficult than, listen to this, I think it is more difficult than controlling the wind. How is that even possible? Let's just pause there for a second. Is it possible to control the wind, to capture the wind? Like, what does that even mean? Can someone try to explain that to me? How can you control the wind? Does somebody even have a hypothesis how one can control the wind? Like, really, let's meditate on that words, controlling the wind. Arjuna is using this example intentionally. He could have said anything, but he chooses controlling the wind. Does anybody, any engineer, any scientist, anyone have any idea of how we can control the wind?
I think it's predictable, I guess.
But can we control it?
No.
If there's a tornado, a hurricane?
Not in the world, but maybe in a closed environment, like a wind tunnel.
But a wind tunnel is manufactured. We control in a laboratory how we generate the parameters of that wind. So we're controlling the wind, right? That's artificial wind. But a real wind, like a hurricane comes, can we do? What do we do? Our science and technology has gone so far, but when there's a hurricane or a tornado, what do? Vacate the premises, go. Right? We cannot control the wind. And here Arjuna is saying to Krishna, it is easier to control the raging wind than it is to control the mind. So when the wind cannot be controlled, then how can the mind be controlled? And this is spoken by Arjuna. See how beautiful this verse is? So I want to read the purport with you. The purport, the explanation, the commentary on this verse by Apanacharya, Srila Prabhupada, whom, these are not my realizations, these are realizations I've acquired by reading from Acharyas and fundamentally Srila Prabhupada. So let me read his purport and share. The mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence, although the mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence. For a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium toward both friend and enemy, but ultimately no worldly man can do so, for this is more difficult than controlling the raging wind. I mean, there's so much of beauty packed in that purport, but I need to move ahead with time because there's so much things to cover. But here Prabhupada is saying that he's essaying what Arjuna has said. The mind is indeed very difficult to control. And we may think artificially we're controlling it, but we're not. And that's really important for us to remember. We may walk out this door and think, but I'm in control of my mind. Are you? And this is what Prabhupada is saying in this purport. Artificially, you may think. Yes?
I was just thinking, like, maybe he doesn't, and it's like, that's like the way that he doesn't is by, he doesn't, right?
He doesn't control, so he doesn't control his mind. So he's controlling his mind by not controlling it. Is that what you're saying? I'm just trying to understand.
Okay, the only way I can see is something like the golden rule.
Mm-hmm.
The golden rule is always there, so it kind of controls the mind.
But the mind, in terms of controlling, is when you have thoughts or when you have actions that you're trying to perform. Do you have complete control over that? All the time?
No.
That's the thing, right? That's what. So artificially, for some things we may have control over. We know that if fire is hot, not to put it, and will get burned. We know, do not put your hand in the fire. So we are controlling the mind, but there are restrictions to that control, right? But in general, are we able to control the free mind? It's very difficult to. And this is what this verse, this is what Arjuna is speaking about, and this is what is being communicated here. Artificially, we may think, but if we actually reflect deeper, we'll realize that we're not controlling it. So in the Vedic literature, in the Kathopanishad 1:3, verses 3 to 4, it is said, Atmanam ratinam vidhi shariram ratam evacha buddhim tu saratim vidhi manha pragraham evacha indriyani hayan ahur visayam ste sugocharan atmendriya mana yuktam bhokteti ahur manishinha. Everybody understood that? Can someone explain? All right, this I like this analogy. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for sharing. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and intelligence is the driver. Mind is a driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. Now, this is a very beautiful analogy that's given here. I'm sure most of us have heard this, right? But for those of us who have not heard it, let's try to deconstruct what is being said here. The individual, so there's a vehicle, right? And in this vehicle, you are sitting as a passenger. So you, being the individual, you're a passenger in this vehicle. And it's chauffeured, you're not driving it, there's someone driving it for you. All right? Who's driving it? If you are a passenger, as per this verse, the intelligence should be driving it. That is proper knowledge. Intelligence should be driving this vehicle. So imagine, personified, there is a chauffeur named Intelligence. You can have a chauffeur called Brian, called, I don't want to say Roy, but he's too advanced to be calling him a chauffeur, Sharat. I can be your driver. So imagine there's a driver called Intelligence, just for now. And then, the driving instruments, the instrument that you use to control this vehicle, that is supposed to be the mind. So this is a bit easier to understand. Let's say we have a steering wheel, but in order to build this example, imagine you're in a horse carriage, right? And the reins of this horse carriage or the steering wheel, whatever, that is supposed to be the mind. Remember I said earlier, the mind is an instrument. I really want you to meditate and remember those words when you walk out. The mind is an instrument. So the mind, the reins is the instrument. And then what is the engine? What is pulling this vehicle forward? Who can take a guess? The senses. The senses are the horses. Nowadays, we don't have horses, we have horsepower. Right? But the senses are the horses. So look at this. You are a passenger in this horse carriage. You're being driven by the intelligence. The intelligence, who is the driver, is pulling on the reins, and the reins is pulling on the horses. So here Prabhupada is saying that the mind, the self, is either the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and the senses. Now what happens if the driver falls asleep? The horses will pull it wherever it wants to go, right? You started from home, you wanted to go into the temple, you'll end up in Toronto. Huh? Maybe not, the horses will need to stop. Might run out of fuel. But what happens? When the driver falls asleep, what happens? Or what happens when the instrument fails? The mind does not allow you to take control of the horses. Then what happens?
Accident.
Accident can happen, yes. Basically, you also don't get to your destination. And it's destructive, yeah? And what's even worse, if the horses are not properly controlled. If the horses are not regulated, what will they do? One wants to go here, the other one wants to go there, they're all fighting against each other. That's what's happening. So now let's look at it. The horses is the senses. We have the senses. We can smell, we can hear, we can touch, all these different senses. If these senses are not controlled, what happens? Do you see how we are really working? We need to know the enemy. The enemy is within. The enemy is the mind. But the enemy, the mind, can easily be pulled away by the senses if it is unregulated. If the horses are not controlled, meaning the senses are not controlled, it'll just pull you away. So this analogy is so beautiful because it really helps for us to understand the different components within our functioning in this human life. So it is understood by great thinkers. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence. As an acute infection may surpass the efficacy of medicine, such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga. But such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what can we say of modern man? So remember, Arjuna was telling Krishna, I cannot practice Ashtanga Yoga. It's very difficult. Right? It's very difficult. In the next verse, I'll see if I can read a little bit. It's very difficult to do this. Sit in isolation, fix our minds, disconnected from the whole world, meditate on the Supreme, trying to fix our minds in this way is very difficult. And here Prabhupada is saying it was difficult for Arjuna then. What now in this modern day and age for us? It's not feasible. So then what is recommended? So here Prabhupada says the simile used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind, and it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we should chant this mantra. And it's very important that Prabhupada is actually explaining to us what is recommended. Yoga is not recommended. That Ashtanga Yoga is not the practice. Many of us think yoga means all these various asanas, pranayam. Actually, those are just two aspects of this eightfold system. Automatically we hear yoga and we're like, oh yeah, I do my asanas, I can control my mind. No, it's more complex than that. The yamas, the niyamas, all those different aspects. And Prabhupada is saying that this method of controlling the mind was given to us by Sri Krishna himself in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's Krishna Balaram on the altar, Shri Gaur Nitai. And the rightmost entity, a personality, is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he gave us the means by which we can try to control the mind and the senses. And it's the chanting this great mantra. And we chant this great mantra for deliverance. But there's also something else Prabhupada mentions that Mahaprabhu told us. We need to chant in all humility. Trinadapi sunechana tarurapi sahishrana amanina manadena kirtanya sadahari. We must chant in the mood of complete humility. we should be more humble than a straw on the street. We should be more tolerant than a tree. We should give all respect to everybody and expect no respect in turn. In this mood, one should chant. Now we can all aspire to get to that mood, but at least we know where we should get to. It's difficult to even try to imagine this level of tolerance, this level of humility. But this is the qualification. If one really wants to control the mind, one should chant in this mood. So, we can speak hours just on that verse, but for interest of time, I'll have to go on. The method prescribed is Save Manaha, Krishna Pada Ravindayo. One must engage one mind fully in Krishna. Only then will there remain no other engagements to agitate the mind. Okay, so I just want to quickly mention text 35 in passing because two very important things are done. First, Krishna says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Asamsaya Mahabaho Manaha Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kuntiya Vairagena cha Grihate. Krishna says to Arjuna, this is Krishna now replying to Arjuna. Krishna saying, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, the Supreme Lord is saying to Arjuna, it is indeed very difficult to control the mind. So we can find some sort of comfort in this. We're not imagining it. When the alarm clock goes off in the morning and we're struggling to wake up, when we're not able to chant our japa attentively, whenever we're not able to bring our mind back to what we should be doing, it's not our imagination. Krishna is actually saying, he's confirming this, that yes, Arjuna, it is difficult to control the mind. Supreme Personality is verifying this. But he also gives the solution how we can control the mind. He says through a practice, suitable practice, and through detachment. Suitable practice and detachment. So this is where we're going to try and go into. Okay. Can you put the presentation up for me? Just a few words while we put the presentation on. This suitable practice and detachment. Does anyone sort of know or think what detachment means? What is detachment? Detachment is everyone? Attachment to Krishna. That's topmost answer. Very nice. Yes, Prabhu?
Not having any desires.
Not having any desires. Right. It's very interesting that it's a very good answer. But I want to say one thing. As individuals, the only thing our soul can do is desire. So to go and say that we should have no desires at all, it is very difficult. Right? But when we set the expectation that our mind should be a clean slate by not having any desires, therefore we can control it, I understand where you're coming to your answer. It's a good answer, but I'll explain to you, a lot of people think automatically detach means to make our minds empty, clear the minds, think about nothing, have zero desire. But this impersonal concept is a bit destructive because the mind can never be idle. There's a very nice saying, an idle mind is a devil's workshop, right? So the mind can never be idle. The mind is always engaged in something. The desires are very critical. Okay. So does anyone want to just take one more final guess? Detachment. I think we got a very good, yes?
Going with the flow?
Going with the flow. Could you explain, like...
Well, not trying to control the world in any way. Being with the world as it is.
Being with the world, not of the world?
Attachment is, like if you're attached to something, you're trying to control something. Right? Or if something is
flowing down a river and you chase after it, well, you're attached to it. But if you just let it flow down the river,
as long as it's not impacting you, let it be.
Like the natural flow of things.
Just accepting.
Accepting it, acceptance.
Like right now we're burning fossil fuels, you know. We're not going with the natural flow, right? I'm just saying. No, but detachment, like, yeah, just like the Stoics basically say that a lot, is like don't try to, the world, you don't feel pain because of what the world is doing to you. You feel pain because what you think of the world. Or the way you look at the world, what it's doing. But if you just say, like, well, the world is what it is, and I don't have any control over it, then it ceases to hurt you. You don't think about it the same way, right? But if you're attached to wanting to control the world, then you're going to feel pain.
What if, so let's say we have so many wars going around, there's fires going, so many different bad atrocities happening around the world. You may not want to control those things, but is your mind perhaps not disturbed by it? You may not want to control it. Let's just say you hear of some very bad things happening, you know, wars taking place, wars which should not take place, people, innocent children being hurt when they should not be hurt. So, not that we want to control something, but do we not feel disturbed when something like this happens? Not that we want to control it, but it's interesting. It's a very good point. It's acceptance, letting things be.
Well, going with the flow there might be fighting the tyrant, you know? That would be the flow of the universe there, maybe.
Flow, okay. So, very good point, thank you. So detachment, actually Prabhupada explains, is not to, you know, renounce and give up everything. Because our minds, ourselves, we can never be empty, we can never be void. We are desireful entities. We constantly desire. So detachment does not simply mean let go of something. Because the mind can never be blank. The mind can never be empty. If the mind is empty, what happens? The devil comes in. An idle mind is a devil's workshop. Metaphorical devil. So, it's a very interesting point there, detachment. Prabhupada, yes, Prabhu?
I would say like having a low expectations would be or zero expectation. Like for me, like I try my best and happy what I have. I'm not running for anything like in person. Like we'll always be grateful and happy like what we have and how we can make it more better. Right. And having low expectations, zero. Like if I'm doing in devotional services, I don't have to count on that one, that I did it. Like it should be done in such a way that people doesn't know how it's done. Wow. And you are already done. Like, you know, like in India we say, Neki kar darya mein dal, so that's how we usually do that.
Wow. Very nice. Very cool. Thank you. All of these answers, by the way, all your answers are excellent answers. Because why? These answers are helping us to understand these very complex terms. You know, once a reporter told Prabhupada, and actually I think it was Prabhupada who mentioned this by himself, I might be getting confused, but if you give a Buddhist monk $1 million, what do you think that Buddhist monk would do? What would he do? Krishna Seva, what would he do?
Being a Buddhist monk?
Yeah, being a Buddhist monk, what would he do?
I don't know, maybe open another temple? Buddhist temple?
Like a really big Buddha.
Actually, a Buddhist monk, they are trained, the default, the principle that which their premises are based on is that become desireless. Have no attachment to anything material. So if you give a Buddhist monk $1 million, he'll say, thank you very much.
Maybe he'll not be a monk anymore.
Oh, he may not be a monk. Yes. I think I should not answer that if I was a Buddhist monk. Yes. A Buddhist monk would say, thank you very much, but I am detached from this world. I have no use for your $1 million. Give it to somebody else. Prabhupada said, give me that $1 million. Give it to me. What do you think Prabhupada wanted to do? Buy a Ferrari? Exactly. Prabhupada wanted to build temples, print books, distribute the beautiful messages of the Lordship. So this is detachment. Why? Because we detach the same object for our sense enjoyment and we attach it to the enjoyment of the Supreme. That is true vairagya, detachment. But let's go on to this PowerPoint presentation. I need to make way. So I'm almost running out of time. Sorry. Thank you for your tolerance. So Prabhupada says here, the first business of one trying to advance in spiritual life is to control the mind and the senses. So if we want to make any advancements in our bhakti, we need to regulate the mind, the instrument that's controlling the horse carriage, and the senses, the engine that's pulling it. So, journey into the mind by your insignificant rascal sitting here, Bhakta Sharat. So please, let's go. So, we always hear this mind, body, and soul. So I want to take this a bit more at a fundamental level and build up. Okay? We hear this concept, mind, body, and soul. And I really want us to understand these concepts, not just superficially, but to perhaps walk home with realizations. All right? So, this is a very nice picture I found on the internet. We are the soul, the individual. And the individual accepts a subtle body, also known as a causal body or an astral body in other literature. This subtle body comprises of mind, intelligence, and false ego. And this subtle body then is embedded within another body, which is our gross body. That's the physical body. So when you look inside, when you look in a mirror, what you're seeing is your gross body. So your gross body is made of these 5 different components, these elements: earth, air, water, fire, ether. So I really want you to remember this picture as I build on this presentation. The soul, the little spark, that little red star, embedded within this subtle body, embedded in a gross body. And the subtle body comprises of your mind, intelligence, and false ego. Now what happens, I don't want to take this conversation in a grim topic, but what happens when we die? We leave this physical gross body and we travel to another plane. Now, if we are perfected in this life in our bhakti, we can acquire liberation and go to Vaikuntha. But if we're not, and we're trapped in this circle of birth and death, then we go with our subtle body to accept another life form. So I want to sort of give an analogy of our bodies versus the computer system. All right, one by one, Prabhu. So we all know what hardware is. I'm going to build on Marutha. Prabhu gave this very nice example a few weeks ago in this class. So what is I'm sorry, I'm an engineer, disclaimer, IT. So for me, I understand IT concepts very quickly. But I can guarantee you it's a very, very high level. All of you should be able to understand this. Hardware, what is a hardware? It's like your mouse, your keyboard, your screen, all of these things. It's your basic hardware, all right? And then you have firmware. Now, who here is an IT or an embedded engineer? Who can explain to me what firmware is? Because I don't know what firmware is, but I like the concept.
Software update.
Software update, but what software? What is firmware? Can someone quickly just explain to us what is firmware?
It's a middleware layer between the software and the hardware.
Did everyone understand this? No. Can you explain for me?
There's a hardware, and on the top of that,
there's a hardware, and on top of that there's a firmware layer, and on which we build the softwares.
So that's what firmware is, right? It allows us to communicate with the hardware. It is sort of like a layer which allows us to interface with the hardware. Otherwise, how would we talk to the mouse or the keyboard or whatever other hardware? So that's firmware. Then we have the operating system. Now everybody knows what operating system is, right? Right? Like we have Windows, Linux, Mac OS. This operating system is what brings together all the hardware and allows us to use the hardware at a much higher level. And sitting above the operating system is applications. Right? Applications are all user-installed applications. So you have Microsoft Word if you're still in Windows. You'd have the browsers, YouTube applications, all the games, whatever. Applications are all user installed. So we install these applications based on our preferences. If you're an engineer, you may install some engineering-based applications. If you're into graphics, you'll maybe have some things like Photoshop, etc., right? So based on what your preferences are, you install these applications. Very important to remember this point. User installed application. Not all of us will have the same applications on our phone or on our laptops, right? And sitting above that is the user. Okay, so let's draw parallel. So map because I want to draw an analogy to this, I just spoke about the subtle body, the gross body, the soul. Let's try to understand this in a bit more tangible terms. So we have the hardware comprising, in terms of our human body, physical body and senses. So our physical body and our various senses that we have. And this gives the gross body. Yeah? And above the gross body, we mentioned, is a subtle body. So remember about the physical body, these are things that we can actually touch. It's like you can go touch your keyboard, you can touch your mouse, you can touch yourself, right? So it's a physical gross element. But now in your subtle body, it comprises of the three things there. Intelligence, mind, and ego. And I've tried to map it to what each one looks like. So the mind is like the operating system. The mind allows you to use this hardware. Your limbs, your stomach, all these different components that your body is built up of, your muscles, your mind allows you to use it. But your mind cannot do it alone, it needs firmware. And it also needs application. So what is this firmware? Why is it ego? Because ego actually allows us, this is a very subtle concept, but ego is actually responsible for our identification. It is embedded into our subtle body. The same way firmware is necessary to interact with the hardware, ego allows us to identify, it gives us individuality. So intelligence, I'll speak about this just now. Intelligence are like the applications that we install. So what is this? So if I like cooking, I'm going to go and research recipes. I'm installing in my mind certain applications or certain recipes, knowledge of certain things, right? If I like photography, I will go and study the art of photography. If I like maths, I'll do that. So these user, applications are what we install as our intelligence, and it allows us to use the operating system, our mind, to drive and make the system more effective. And above that is the soul. The soul is like the user. Notice that the soul is disconnected from the subtle and the gross body. The user when you're using your laptop, when you're using your cell phone, are you the cell phone? Are you the laptop? It's interesting, but when people drive in a vehicle, they almost feel like the vehicle is them. Have you ever seen road rage happen?
It's terrible.
It's terrible. When you're driving in a car and somebody overtakes you, all of a sudden you're like, how can you overtake me? You get that anger. But you're not even the vehicle, then what are you getting upset about? But sometimes we get so confused. And what is responsible for that? The ego is responsible for that, because the ego makes you think, I am the body, I am the phone, or I am the car, or whatever it is. So, let's start with understanding the mind, intelligence, and ego. Let's try and go this quickly. So thoughts. Now a thought is something that's very subtle. Can you see it? Can you actually see a thought? Can you touch it? Can you feel it? No, right? So none of the senses can actually witness this thought. But the only thing that can witness a thought is the mind. So I'm trying to explain to you, what does it mean when something is subtle? It is not tangible. It can be experienced. It cannot be felt. So the thought is an expression of the mind. In the beginning of this class, I said, let's try to journey into the mind. So I'm trying to break down to you how the mind functions. What are the different aspects of how it comes to decisions and how it processes the information it receives. A thought is a critical aspect of this. It is the expression of the mind. It is so subtle. So the mind is linked to the senses, as we read. So this is a nice thing. All the senses can do is sort of perceive the stimuli. If you put your hand in cold water, you'll feel the cold water. You'll feel hot. You'll feel heat. You'll hear sound. You'll smell flowers. You're sort of processing the various stimuli, right? And what the mind is doing, it's taking the stimuli from the senses and saying, I like it, I don't like it. You know? And this is what the mind does. It's processing these various stimuli and it's saying, oh, I like this thing or I don't really like this thing. I like spicy food or I don't really like it, you know? It's processing the stimuli. And one very important aspect is the mind hankers for what it wants and it laments for its losses. So it's constantly saying that if I can't get something, I want to get it. And if I've lost something, then I want it back, right? This is what the mind does. So going on further, intelligence, that is even more subtle than the mind. So the function of the intelligence is to discriminate. What is right, what is wrong? If the mind says, I want a piece of cake, the intelligence says, well, how can I get you this piece of cake now? See, the mind is feeding into the input that it receives, I like the taste of cake. So the mind then takes a decision and starts hankering for cake. And intelligence is saying, okay, let's see, how can I get you a cake? Let's go to Govinda's today. They have nice cakes there. Right? So this is what the intelligence says. How can it help the mind in its objective? And even more subtle than the mind, the intelligence is the ego. The ego is responsible for this whole phenomenon. It's sort of saying that I am the intelligence, the mind, and the body put together. That's what the ego is doing. The ego is responsible for this identification. It's so subtle. But this concept of ego is so, deep that I will not do justice going into it. But just understand that ego is responsible for our identity. And it is ego that allows us to be confused into thinking that the mind, the intelligence, and the body is who I am. That is what ego is doing. And then the soul is sort of beyond even the ego. The soul is the real us. We are that entity, that individual. We are the observer. The soul is the observer, the witness. Okay. Yeah, next one. So all of you seen this photo before? Right? You see how we're changing our bodies. This is that we are changing our physical bodies, but the soul is present throughout. And like this, if we are changing our physical bodies, then what is it that we're keeping? In this material world, we're keeping the soul is with the subtle body. So that's why we're able to remember these various aspects. But we're continuously going from one life form to another life form. Yes, Prabhu?
Sorry. So do you mean like with every different body, the soul remains the same, but the mind, body, and intelligence changes?
No, the subtle body, your physical body changes, but your subtle body goes with you.
Okay. Until
you get out of the cycle of birth and death. And then your soul goes to where it should be, in the transcendental realm of Vaikuntadam. We can perhaps speak about this a bit later, the two of us, if you are interested. Okay, so next slide, please, Prabhu. Mahatma Das Prabhu, he says, the cause of your thinking. Remember what I said, the mind, it has thoughts. So a thought is an expression of the mind. So here he says, a thought is an effect of a cause. So there's something happening, and that is what sparks this thought. So we cannot control the mind unless we change the cause of our thinking. So now we're trying to bring it back to the verse that we read. How can we control the mind? What are aspects, and Mahatma Prabhu explains, what are the aspects that generate or are responsible for our thought? He says it is our desires, our beliefs, and our conditioning, our sanskaras. If you have a predisposition for very spicy things, it could very well be that in your past lives you really did like a lot of spicy food. But it's actually, or if you have a predisposition for liking certain things, hearing certain types of music, it is not just in this lifetime that you've acquired this liking. When you heard certain music, or you saw certain images, or you tasted certain food things in previous lives, it made an impression in your mind. This impression is called a samskar. And as I said, your subtle body travels with you. So your mental impressions from your previous lives come with you. And that is why we have certain predispositions to certain things. So here Mahatma Prabhu is saying that you cannot control the mind until you understand what is responsible for the different thought process, our desires, beliefs, and our impressions. We can only change. What can we change? The cause. So when we change our desires, when we change our beliefs, when we change our samskaras, then only can we actually start actuating change in thought. And when we actuate a change in thought, then we can actually change our actions. So this is the secret. Right here is a summary of how do you control your mind. You start with desires, with your beliefs, and your conditionings. Okay, I have to go through things very quickly. So guarding the mind, in a nutshell, our minds are like gardens. And we need to plant fragrant flowers. And at the same time, we need to pull out the weeds, right? What are examples of weeds? These are negative thoughts, these negative beliefs, these principles, things that we've come across, we've acquired. When you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, and you should not be doing it, those are weeds. And what are examples of fragrant flowers that we should cultivate in our minds? Spiritual texts, Gita wisdoms. So, there's a very important thing, and I'm going to try and wrap up now. There's knowledge versus intelligence, right? What is the difference between knowledge and intelligence? Can someone just what is the difference? Is it the same? Is knowledge and intelligence the same?
Intelligence is based on knowledge.
Intelligence is based on knowledge.
Knowledge is information and intelligence is applied.
Okay, intelligence is applied and knowledge is information. Excellent. That really says it well. I have a very nice example. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Intelligence is not putting it in a fruit salad. That is the application of knowledge.
Wisdom.
Is wisdom, yes. So when you apply the information, this knowledge, that is intelligence. Intelligence is the act of application.
I would say that intelligence there is more wisdom, and
intelligence would be, I'm going to taste this tomato before I put it in the fruit salad. That's intelligence. But wisdom is like, you know, so you won't put it. That's wisdom.
We may have certain predispositions to how we may even like tomatoes. So some of us may actually want a tomato in a fruit salad, but in general, yeah? So, in a nutshell, we should really plant important seeds in our minds. Really help to cultivate. Because if we don't plant positive thoughts into our minds, who will? Nobody likes criticism. If somebody comes and tells, Prabhu, you didn't do this right. Mataji, you didn't make the garland so nicely. Prabhu, there's something, you didn't clean the floors of the temple nicely. Who likes criticism? But many times we tend to criticize ourselves. We're so harsh on ourselves. We're always thinking the negative. It's important to think the positive. So you need to plant positive thoughts in your mind. Because if you don't do it, nobody will. Next one. So the main thing in this slide of spiritual knowledge is intelligence is transformational. So when we take the knowledge that we receive in the Gita, knowledge that we get through devotees, through our acharyas, it is not that we absorb it and keep it in our minds, because that knowledge is meaningless until we don't transform it. That transformation of knowledge is intelligence, and this is what we need to do. Intelligence is meant to transform our actions to empower us. Okay. I'm going to skip a few things. Can we go to practical tips, Prabhu? I really thank you so much for your tolerance. I'm going to wrap up now. So just because I don't want to go without I've told you how do we control the mind, it's difficult to do it, but what are some practical ways? So it's important that we need to monitor our intelligence. What are our beliefs? What are our thoughts? What are some scars, our impressions? Try to understand it, write it down. Not just think it, because a thought can be forgotten, but actually write it down. And perhaps you should set goals for yourself. how can I plant positive thoughts, positive beliefs? And try to see, in time, am I getting there? If you do a self-reflection, monitor your intelligence and see. Strengthen your knowledge by studying the scriptures. These scriptures are not just meant to be kept on a bookshelf or in your prayer room. They're meant to be open to studied. They're like we just did with this verse that Arjuna is speaking to Krishna. To understand each and every word, and then to not just take that knowledge, but then apply it. And then we transform it by absorbing and practicing it. Okay, I think I have to skip a few parts, Prabhu. Keep going. Sorry for... Go. Next. There we go. Okay. So, how many of us love to exercise? Yeah? Love to exercise?
I don't know if I love it.
Like to exercise? Or no, we should exercise, but we don't. Yeah? Okay. We just think of exercising our bodies. But we need to exercise our minds. We need to have a mental gym. Right? Pull-up bars, skipping ropes, weights. If you're not exercising your mind, what is it going to do? It's going to become idle. And then what happens in an idle mind? Devil's workshop. All right, so what we need to do is we need to train the intelligence to be faster than the mind. What does that mean? When, all of a sudden you're doing something, your phone beeps. And Instagram. Somebody must have responded to my post. Somebody might have liked my post, I need to go see. And meanwhile, you're doing something important. You might be chanting japa, you might be making prasadam. Your boss might be expecting an important report, or you've got a test tomorrow, whatever it is. But pop, message comes. What do? I need to open this phone. Who liked my post? You open your phone and you start, before you know it, you're surfing Instagram. See how the mind worked faster than intelligence? 5 minutes later, the intelligence is saying, wait a second, you should be studying. You should be chanting your japa attentively. See how slow the intelligence is to react to the mind? The mind instantly got the sense, did it? The phone. Likes. That is what mental gym is about. Train intelligence to be faster than the mind. So, our impressions, our samskaras are very sort of critical in understanding why we are drawn to certain things. And it is these impressions that make the mind faster than the intelligence. So what we need to do is, these impressions are habits. Phone rings, instantly pick it up. It's a habit. And this habit, this impression is what needs to be changed. And how do we do that? We train our intelligence. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. We chant. That's a very good way of controlling the mind, yes. First thing is to understand that the mind is running away from the intelligence, and it shouldn't do that. I give an example so we can go forward. So, discipline, probably, yeah. So what we need to do is we need to discipline. We spoke about Arjun's discipline in the battle, but what we need to really do is be disciplined. I want all of you to try this. Just set one goal for yourself. I will not look at my phone when the notification goes on and I'm chanting japa. That can wait 7 minutes.
2 hours.
2 hours, even better. Haribol! 2 hours. This is devotees.
Check your phone twice a day.
Check your phone twice a day. I want you to, please, don't walk out of here without setting one goal for yourself, as small as it may sound. Just to tell yourself, I'm going to discipline my mind. I'm going to train my mind not to respond to stimuli. I will study half an hour, and in my break, then I will do what I have to do. Whatever it is, set for yourself one goal. Yes.
I will chant japa rather than ruminate.
Wonderful goal. like this, all of you. Think of one thing that you do reflexively by habit and tell yourself, I will discipline my mind. I will train my mind to obey my intelligence. My intelligence must be faster.
No phone when you get up.
No phone. Oh, that's a very good one. No phone when you get up. Yes.
That's impossible.
That's impossible.
I tried it. It's impossible.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question for you, right? If our mind still feels a strong desire to look at social media, to go on YouTube, TikTok, whatever it is, what can we do about it? If we cannot control the urge, what can we do? Remember I spoke about detachment, vairagya, and Prabhupada said, give me $1 million and I will use it. How can we apply that concept to our bad habits? If we cannot stop the habit, how can we refocus this habit? Anyone have any idea? Anyone? Yes?
Disable YouTube and install Prabhupada Leela or Prabhupada Lecture so it doesn't give random recommendations.
Nice. Recommendations are horrible. Get you to, yes?
Do japa.
Do japa, okay.
Satsang.
Huh?
Satsang, like.
Satsang?
Associate with more devotees.
Right. Yes, very good.
Just fill your schedule to the rim with engagement.
Wow, no time for any distractions, right?
No time.
Very, yes?
Slowly reduce your habit, because like we as humans, we're not gonna do it like quickly. So like we need to learn like slowly in a bit,
Right.
like in a slowly form, so that like when I used to study medicine in India, like in grade 12. So I trained my mind that okay, I have to study 1 hour, and then 15 minutes I'm gonna be just taking a nature walk or something, and then I'm gonna study for 2 hours, and then I'm so like, and that thing like really helps that you're more motivated. Like okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna achieve my goal. You know.
Right. Very nice. But what happens? Okay, this last one.
Krishna conscious related things.
Okay. Yes. So Sonia, you saw my slide, did you? Okay. So what happens? You can put on the next one, Prabhu. Yeah. What happens when we actually cannot control the urge, the desire to open the phone and go onto YouTube? What do? Apply what Prabhupada said. Give me the $1 million. I will open YouTube, but I will watch Krishna conscious content. So if you cannot curb that bad habit, you can turn it into a good habit. How? Taking that same platform and utilize it in Krishna's service. And that is vairagya, that is detachment. So you cannot control the urge. That's fine. Not fine, because if you're chanting japa and then you have urge to look at phone and then, oh, let me just see this nice YouTube video now. There should be some control, some restriction. But when the urge is so strong, we can Krishnaize it. We can spiritualize that, and we can practice proper vairagya, proper detachment. So now, finishing off, thank you so much. To conclude, practice bhakti and detachment. Thank you so much, devotees, for your time.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Sharat, for this introduction to the mind and how to control the mind. And if we have like really short comments or questions, otherwise we will continue with the program. Anyone have? So somebody was telling me how they were like reading the Bible one time, and they told me that it makes a lot of sense if you change the word Jesus for whatever it is that you believe. Then it makes even more sense, like when you read it that way. And I was just thinking here, like detachment, like to me that's a synonym for God worship, right? So just trying to find the beauty of divinity, however possible, is what I would sub in for myself.
So it's like your own realization, your takeaway of how you practice detachment, or how you will practice detachment.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Thank you for sharing. Yes,
Yeah, just quickly to share my experience with this. Yeah, I used to watch YouTube a lot. I was subscribed to over 50 channels. And now I still, believe it or not, I still listen to YouTube a lot. But it's Srimad Bhagavatam reading all the time by His Holiness Keshava Bharati Maharaj. And I highly recommend it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Very nice.
The only thing I pay for, because anyways, I have to pay for it, is YouTube Premium. That's the only thing I pay for.
YouTube sponsor him, please. Advocating YouTube. Okay. I think if we can move on to the next part of the program. Thank you very much, devotees.
Now we will be offering yams to Lord Damodar. We'll be chanting Damodar Ashtakam. Alex, if you could put the text. And maybe let's read the translation first in order to get into the mood. And additional we will ask you to lead Kirtan, and then more Kirtan after Damodar Ashtakam, and then Prashadam. So just give us a couple of minutes to prepare.
So we'll read the translation of this song here, Damodar Ashtakam, from Kalakanta. It's a poetic description of the story of Krishna, who was tied to the mortar by his mother Yashoda. So we can all read this together. After you still butter, your earrings dance and shine. As you flee your mother in Gokula pastimes, though you are all blissful, all knowing, ever new. Greatest of controllers, your mother controls you. She shows you the stick, and she binds you by the waist. As you rub your frightened eyes, tears roll down your face. Sobbing in quick breaths, make your necklace of pearls shake. Ropes of her love bind you with your mother. Can we all read this together, please? She shows you the stick, and she binds you by the waist. As you rub your frightened eyes, tears roll down your face. Sobbing in quick breaths, make your necklace of pearls shake. Ropes of her love bind you in your mother's embrace. Relishing your childhood activities like this, you blind your devotees in devotions of bliss. But many revere you, by love you are pursued. Again and again, Lord, I bow down before you. Although you give freedom, I don't ask you to be free, nor do I want anything you could offer me. I only request that your sweet childhood pastimes ever be enacted in my heart and my mind. Curly hair encircles your face of blackish blue. Kisses make your cheeks look like red bimbo fruit. May this sublime vision be all that I can see. Any other treasure has no value to me. Damodar, O Vishnu, O Lord beyond compare, be pleased with the soul sunk in ocean of despair. Uplift and protect me with glances from your eyes. Shower your compassion like rainfall from the sky. Two sons of Kubera were cursed to stand as trees. You gave them the chance to become your devotees. My Lord, will you offer the same blessing to me? I don't want to merge with your identity. Although in your belly the universe is found, your mother's exalted robe has your belly bound. I bow to that robe and to Radha your most dear, and those sublime pastimes in which you appear.
Just a short introduction, how we do it. We will do 2 rows, Prabhu on this side, Mataji's on this side. I will ask two volunteers, one from Mataji Shura, and maybe one from Prabhu, helping cleansing the hand. So, if you are coming, you will get a couple of drops on your hand. Please don't drink it, don't put it on your head. It's not holy water, just to cleanse your hand. And then you can offer the thank you.
I will keep this one and then you can
Ishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasatkundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namam Ishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasatkundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namami Shwangram Satchidanandarupam Lasatkundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namami Shwangram Satchidanandarupam Lasatkundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashoda Biyolukam Kadvamanam Karam Visam Vatyanta Kodrutya Gopya 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 Rudantamurnetra Yugmam Rijantam Karam Pujayumena Sargakanekam 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 Swasakam Padri Vikakakanta Sita Gregana Mudara Moksha Hare